From all, to all, with all, for all, through all, we thank the gods of creation. We thank the ancestors. We thank the forces of nature. And we thank the earth. We thank them for their direction, their protection, their guidance, for keeping us, showing us, allowing us to know and enjoy life to its fullest, now and later.
Black people who once loved with the slow march of time. Time was ours to hold in the soft, low-born chambers of our hearts. And was we, the Afro mommies and daddies of a sun world, would turn our strands of hair into antennas to tune in the juju madness and syncopated love rhythms of Africa. And we loved with time, and we took the time to love, and with the right time we love, and we love time after time. Will we ever love again? Will we ever love again? Will we really ever love again? Or will we just sit and rot away with the brighter tomorrows in the skag field, rat-cluttered halls of our minds?
Black people, what y'all gonna do? Black people, what y'all gonna do?
Will the real black people please stand up?
Let our rejoicing rise high as listening skies. Let it resound loud as the rolling sea. Sing a song full of the faith that the dark past has taught us. Sing a song full of the hope that the present has brought us, facing the rising sun.
Jumbo Habarian, welcome once again to Our Story, the program that makes being black positive, relevant, desirable, and true to a lost nation in America. A program that speaks to the historical significance of the original people of the earth. Our Story Network takes pride in setting itself away from the other programs that centers on entertainment or rhetorical mumbo-jumbo that misdirects your attention onto other things that causes you to exhaust your resources and renders you brain dead. It is Our Story who talks about commitment to you and your people. It is Our Story that champions the reestablishment of the black genius that once ruled the world. It is Our Story that focuses you in on the rewards of black advocacy, black activism, black involvement, and black power. It is our story that encourages survival of the black race and solicits your involvement to that end. Black folks must remember race first is the call of the day, and we as a people must. I say must take the pledge if we, the people of the original race, expect to survive. As I take the many lessons I have received over the years and reflect upon them by sharing these lessons with my brothers and sisters, I realize the power that we as a people possess, for the most part, has gone unnoticed. The masses of black folks who have been rendered lost and disenfranchised from the meaning and mission our creators intended for us to embrace is all but depleted. It is because of the mission and meaning of the life of our ancestors that I realized how blessed as black people we really are. What fascinates me are the many gifts I have been granted, which allows me to distribute the information onward to you. As always, that message begins and ends with the importance of blackness. Say it loud, I'm black and I'm proud. Greetings, family, comrades, family, the inquisitive onlookers, and our beloved viewers. Welcome, welcome, and welcome to our Story Network. We thank you for being with us this evening, and we trust you will take something of value away with you after the program. That is the aim and goals of our Story Network, the network that leads the pack in modern-day communications and ancient and modern education. I say ancient and modern education because of the many errors we have found in the translations and interpretations of ancient records. The modern revelations by new black scholars have opened the window of discovery that has allowed the truth and knowledge originally disseminated by the black masters of education to flourish once again. This is one of the stumbling blocks that has kept black people from rebuilding their greatness and recapturing their birthright. Greetings and welcome to another Our Story segment. As I listen to the chatter going on in today's politics, I realize black people are not addressing the current concerns and possibilities being waged in the national conversation. While identity politics is not new, identity leadership is new. If we understand identity politics, we should understand identity leadership. Just for those who are not on the same page, identity politics is defined as a tendency for people of a particular religion, race, social background, etc., to form exclusive political alliances, moving away from traditional broad-based party politics. Most blacks have not taken advantage of this new approach to realizing gains in the real world of politics. As always, blacks are a day late and a dollar short. This seems to be the theme of the black movement for the past 30 to 40 years. Even though blacks have realized the appointment of a black president, blacks have not been active in creating a black political machine that can produce the election of a national black politician. Excuse me. I know I have hit many of you with the use of the term appointed black president, but that is the reality of black elected politicians. With the advent of blacks being elected, the truth is, blacks elected to office hold no meaningful debt to the black community. Once a black is elected to a position in politics, black begin to sing the song of woe is me. I must represent all of the people, which categorically eliminates black progress. Here is an example. There is a big conversation going on in America today. That conversation embraces and encompasses the definition of capitalism in America. Blacks are not a part of the conversation. Blacks have assumed the position that this is not a conversation for them to be involved in. How wrong blacks are. Blacks should be at the head of the table when capitalism is being discussed. For were it not for capitalism, there would be no need for slavery. Slavery is a direct result of capitalism. So why are we not on the front lines of this conversation? Capitalism has had sufficient time to prove or disprove its worth and needs to be critiqued, not by just the rich and famous, but by the poor and downtrodden. It is the people who have lost the most whose voice should be the loudest. Many of you have read my book. But many more who have not read my book are not aware of what the concept of capitalism, socialism, and communism comes from. All of these economic engines Europeans have established in the world markets come from the African way of communalism. And since there are African concepts who better to value and critique value and worth of these systems as it applies to today's standards. So, where are the black politicians who should be leading the way for this discussion? Which brings me to the second point. Identity leadership. It wasn't until I heard Stedman Graham, a black man who has been very successful in the European world of money, management, politics. Stedman's new book, Identity Leadership, has much to offer in the conversation of black progression and black politics. Not that his book is a political animal, so to speak, but rather a self-help book on how to know yourself. Whether you are black or white, this book can change your way of realizing who you are and what your future holds for you. I equate this book with what was being taught in the black communities in the 50s and 60s for black men especially, to know who they are and what their duty in life would be. Since I only began this book recently, I cannot give you my overall opinion. What I can say is that it is an interesting read, and I believe this would be helpful to blacks in general. Identity politics as well as identity leadership is a concept blacks have not taken full advantage of. In fact, black leadership has not benefited black people in America the way white leadership has helped whites in America. Blacks have not had the discussion about what they should expect from black leadership. In fact, blacks seem to have fear of public discussion about increasing the values of black life in America. This is where black leadership falls flat on its face. Not publicly demonstrating the concerns and political responsibilities towards the black community lessens the identity and authority leaders need to be successful and powerful. That most, if not all, black leaders find themselves in embracing the philosophy of all ships rise together and all ships fall together. The problem with this philosophy is few, if any, blacks are included in the all ships. As one who has seen and lived through segregation, I am a staunch believer in know your own and work for your own. Has anyone just realized what I just did? I just identified another topic the black community needs to explore and discuss in a public setting. In placing this topic in the arena, I want to end my commentary with something from Stedman's book, Identity Leadership. He says, and I quote, "Identity leadership is the highest order of leadership. It is a different kind of leadership that is required in the 21st century, found in people who are aware of their own intentions and identity, who responsibly lead themselves to overcome obstacles in their own lives, and as a result, lead others to succeed in driving organizational growth, close quotes. I seriously recommend Identity Leadership to all so-called black leaders in New Orleans and the country. Transforming into tonight's program, we are fortunate to have with us this evening Dr. Rhonda Lawson, CEO and founder of Meet the World Image Solutions, a unique blend of professional and consulting services. Sister Rhonda, it is good to have you with us this evening. I want you to explain to our audience the concepts of your services. Sister Rhonda?
Well, thank you so much for having me here tonight. I'm really enjoying the show already. I really enjoyed your commentary. But moving on to what Meet the World Image Solutions is all about. It is a literary and publicity services company. And within that company, we offer PR and exposure, but we also offer editing, book coaching. We offer ghostwriting and writing workshops. What we want to do is be a service to up-and-coming authors. I mean, as a published author myself, I know what it was like when this was even before social media came around, where we would go to a book signing and then just sit there because nobody knew we were coming. It was hard to get the word out to let people know that we were coming. It was hard to get our books into bookstores. So what I wanted to do is be a service to up-and-coming authors and help them to get their books into bookstores, help the people to find out that they're coming, and let people know what these authors' messages were all about. And so far, it's been pretty good.
Great. Now, for our community especially, this is relatively, I think, a new concept for us because, I mean, quite frankly, a lot of us have not been exposed to writing and publishing. So what is it that you find your company is able to do for our community?
I'm glad you asked that. First of all, what we did was one of the very first things that I did when I started Meet the World Image Solutions was found the Black History Month Literary Weekend. It takes place the last weekend of every February. And what we do is not only celebrate Black history, but we promote reading, and our thing is making reading fun again. Well, I remember when I was growing up, going to Phyllis Wheatley Elementary School right on Dumaine. We had reading contests. We had reading challenges. You know, I was always reading. I mean, we were reading everything. But as we get older, we have social media, we have more video games now, and there are so many other things that take our attention away that we're not actually taking the time to read a book anymore. And so it's becoming a chore, you know, like, oh, I have to read this book. Not that I get to read this book, it's I have to read this book. So if we can have programs out there that make reading fun again, make writing fun again, and help people find a new love for that, I believe we're going to wind up educating ourselves as a community. So with the literary weekend, what I do is I invite authors to come in, and of course they're going to promote their books, they're going to do book signings, but we also offer a free writer's workshop for adults as well as teenagers, where they get to talk about the challenges of writing. And then we also visit a school. For the last 3 years that we've done this, we've been going to St. Mary's Academy, and we talked to not only the graduating seniors, but we've also talked to the elementary school kids, because if you get them while they're young, get that reading while they're young, they're going to continue reading as they get older. So we want to hit them while they're young as well. And we've donated books to the public library as well as St. Mary Academy's library. We've also had a jazz brunch. And then during the jazz brunch, we actually have an essay contest, and the winners of the essay contest get to read their essays. So they get invited to the brunch for free, and they also receive $100. So $100 just for writing. And that's something I absolutely love. And that's not something for graduating seniors. That's actually for our 8th and 9th graders. Because as I said before, we want to hit them while they're young so they can establish that love for reading, foster that love for reading while they're still young.
You know, you touched on a sore topic with me. And I want to explore some things with you about that social media. I hear it being hailed as the greatest thing since sliced bread. But personally, to me, I think it has been a distraction and it has been some sort of mechanism that has taken the attention of our youth as well as a lot of our adults, and for somehow misplaced this and have sent them off into a different direction. What is it that those of us that feel that social media is not the greatest thing since sliced bread, what is it we can do to try to help our youth and our young adults to get back to reality?
Well, for me, I don't think that social media is the greatest thing since sliced bread, but I don't think it's the devil incarnate either. I believe that we have to balance it. It can be a blessing as well as a curse. If all we're doing on social media is watching YouTube videos, and I've been caught into it. When I first decided to go natural with my hair, and I cut all of the relaxer out of my hair, and I cut all the weave out of my hair, I had no idea how to do my hair, so I was watching YouTube videos. And then sometimes I found myself up all night watching YouTube videos, and I wasn't getting anything done. So in a way it was helping me, but in a way it was distracting me. But and then my daughter, she grew up actually making her own YouTube videos, and she was having fun with it. But one day I caught her doing something she wasn't supposed to do. So what I told her, I said, okay, since you're on social media all the time, since you have this social media channel, I want you to do a video on why you did what you did, why it was wrong, and tell other people why they shouldn't do it. And the first time she did it, she made a joke out of it. I said, nope, you're going to do it again. And the second time she did it very well. She was very serious, and then she learned from what she did. So I tell that story to say that you can use social media as a blessing, but it can also be a curse. It can be a distraction, but you can use it as a blessing. You can use it as a learning tool, and in fact, a lot of what I do in my company is through social media. My TV show that I do every Monday night, Horizons with Meet the World Image Solutions, is on social media. People can watch it on YouTube Live, they can watch it on Facebook Live, and it's also podcasted. So if you're going to be on Facebook, YouTube, or what have you, you can educate yourself, or you can just mindlessly scroll through and not learn anything. I would rather reach my audience where they are. If my audience is on social media, I'm going to get on social media with them.
You talked about your TV show and the podcast. Tell us more about that, and how do you connect on Monday nights to your TV show and podcast?
Well, the TV show is called Horizons with Meet the World Image Solutions. What I do with that show is I highlight authors, musicians, comedians, literary professionals, entrepreneurs, and what I want to do is find another way to bring exposure to authors who may not always get a voice. Sometimes we gravitate toward the people who have 10,000, 20,000, 30,000 followers, or the people who have written 20 books. And we forget about the people who have to work their way up there. So what I've always wanted to do with Meet the World Image Solutions is give a voice to the people who are still trying to grow that following. And that's what I wanted to do with Horizons. So each Monday night, as I said, on Facebook Live and on YouTube Live, all you have to do is just search for Meet the World Image Solutions. You'll be able to watch the show and then learn about some authors that you may not have heard before. I've had people contact me months later and say, I was watching your show and I saw an author on there who had a science fiction book. Can you tell me her name? And I'd say her name. That's her right there. And they'll go out and buy her book. I had a guy who watched the show and saw I had actually interviewed an author who was in jail. He was actually in prison. We did the interview, of course, over the phone. And there was a guy listening to that interview, and he's trying to turn that author's book into a movie now. I've had another author who a guy was watching the show, and he really liked what he had to say. And then a year later, after I had forgotten all about the show, he posted something saying, hey, I saw this author on Rhonda Lawson's show, Horizons with Meet the World Image Solutions, and it opened my eyes to a whole new author, and I just finished reading this book, and I really like it, and that's why I like her show, because I got to meet authors that I've never had the chance to know before. So there is a blessing in coming on the show. We can open readers' eyes to somebody who you may not have been able to touch before.
We're going to go to some of your authors and people that you work with. We're going to roll the stills, and you can explain it to what we're looking at.
Okay. Well, right there, that's just an advertisement. What I do is networking. Part of what Meet the World Image Solutions does is help people to network and get to know other business professionals. So one of the reasons why I did the literary weekend was so authors can meet other authors and authors can meet other readers. We're going to be doing trips where professionals can meet each other, network with each other, trade business cards, and so that's what that picture was all about. This is Ursula Burns. She is the first African American CEO of a Fortune 500 company. She's the former CEO of Xerox, and she's one of my heroes. I actually wrote my dissertation on African American women and the so-called angry black woman syndrome. And people were saying this about Ursula Burns, that she was abrasive or that she was angry and things like that. And my thing is, why is it that when we show aggression the same way a white male would, or even a white woman would, we get labeled as angry? And what we're doing is trying to do our jobs. And so what happens is, many times women who are in a leadership position, they'll try not to show anger, or they'll try not to disagree because they don't want to be labeled with the angry black woman syndrome. So is my whole research was on, is that stereotype actually hurting black women, and maybe is that the reason why there aren't as many black women in powerful leadership roles like Ursula Burns? Okay, this is another one just all about networking. All right, Tracy Jackson. She is an up-and-coming author, and she's Jamaican. And what she's always wanted to do is celebrate her Jamaican heritage, and at the same time celebrate stories that celebrate positive black men. So she's written 2 wonderful books. One is a full-length novel, one is a short novel, but they have very positive characters in them, and they have very strong Jamaican influence in them, and that's what she's all about. So I absolutely love working with TJ. She's probably one of the most positive people I've ever met in my life. This is my daughter. Her name is Beautiful Lawson. She is the former Miss National All-American Miss New Orleans, 2017. And she has a very powerful story as well. She grew up feeling like she had been bullied. She didn't have a lot of self-confidence. And when I sent her home to New Orleans, she started going to St. Mary's Academy. And she wound up having teachers who took such an interest in her that her friend circle changed, her whole outlook changed. And then when she got this letter inviting her to be a part of the National All-American Miss pageant, she said, "Mom, I want to do this." I was like, "You sure?" And she did it. And now she's an actress. She's attending college at Clark Atlanta University, and she sings, and she's having a good time. And all of this, and she still has a regular job working in Walmart. All right, now this is Mrs. Louisiana Universal. She's not only a client, but she's also a part of Meet the World Image Solutions. Her name is Clarissa Lange, and she's just been doing wonderful things. So many community service projects that she's been doing around the city, and she's about to compete for Mrs. Universal in August. So everybody in New Orleans and the state of Louisiana, we just need to huddle around her.
That'd be good.
All right, now I was on the set of Queen Sugar. And so this is one of the actresses from Queen Sugar. She's such a wonderful, wonderful lady. She is very friendly. She's always going out. If you watch Queen Sugar, you may know her as Aunt Vi, and that's what she is. And she, like I said, she's just wonderful, very personable. And that's me. I went to Washington, D.C. with my sorority, Zeta Phi Beta Sorority Incorporated, and we got to visit many of the senators and Congress people who were out in the area, and got to learn a little bit more about how they make the laws in our country.
I'm sorry.
Oh, Cheryl Underwood, one of my sorority sisters. She's actually one of the former presidents of our sorority, and she's one of the co-hosts of The Talk. And I just really enjoy her presence. I was able to go to the show and sit right on the front row and got to see her work, and I enjoyed that.
I want to let our audience know that we're opening up the phone lines in the event they want to call in and have a question or comment for our guest. You know, there is a lot to the differences between blacks and whites. And one of the things you just identified was that angry black woman syndrome. Well, males get the same label.
Yes, I've heard the angry black man.
Yeah. So, you know, me personally, I believe it is a tact, a strategy that they use to pigeonhole us and to slow us and keep us where we're supposed to be.
I agree. I think it's a weapon. If you throw out, as soon as a woman shows, I'm not even going to say anger, if she disagrees with something.
Yes.
Often people will say, oh, you're just an angry black woman, because it's a way to say that stereotype's going to slap her in the face and it's going to shut her down. And then she's going to all of a sudden backpedal and say, no, I'm not angry. And now she's defending herself instead of defending the position that she was trying to defend in the first place. So I do believe there's a lot of that, and I do believe that's why there aren't as many African American women in powerful leadership positions, because we get out there and we may not even do it on purpose sometimes, but all of a sudden we start rethinking how we want to respond to something, or we start rethinking whether we're going to agree with the rest of the group. And you could be absolutely right and disagree with the rest of the group, and people say that you're an angry black woman and you're argumentative. Yeah, because you disagreed with the group. And maybe you're just not using groupthink. Maybe you're trying to think for yourself, or maybe you're trying to show people another way of doing things. And I've heard people make these videos about angry black women, and then somebody would make a comment, if you disagree with this video, you must be angry too. Now all of a sudden the woman doesn't want to say that she disagrees with the video. So, I mean, it happens, and it's sad, but we just have to find ways to overcome that.
You mentioned about about women being in powerful leadership positions, and immediately I went to try to think, male or female blacks, who do we have that's in powerful leadership positions? And the reason I ask that is because one of the most powerful positions in this country is supposed to be the President of the United States. And we've had a black president. And as far as being powerful, I have yet to see that he was a powerful leader, especially when you're talking about for the black population. Now, he's done a lot of things for the overall population, but not a whole lot for our community. So I think that this myth about powerful black leaders, be they male or female, is something that is really kept away from us. I have seen, well, let's go back to the beginning of the ladder. Police, black police back in the 60s and 70s. They wore uniform, but many of them couldn't arrest white folk.
That's true.
And we have had to deal with this problem the entire time we have been in this country. So what is it that, from your point of view, can we do to create powerful black leadership?
A lot of it is support. For instance, let's say we have a black leader, and I'm a black person. I don't like I'm not saying that the black leader is doing anything right or wrong or whatever, but because I don't agree with that person, I automatically say everything that person does is wrong, and I don't support them. I'm not saying that we have to say that because they're another black person that they're right, but at the same time, we don't have to try to get everybody else on our side just because we happen to disagree with that person. And I've seen it not just on the presidential level, I've seen it in local leaders. When I was a leader in the military, I had black soldiers who, they were all for me, but as soon as I did something that they didn't like, for instance, holding them accountable for failing a physical fitness test, or holding them accountable for not doing something that they were supposed to do, all of a sudden, I was the devil incarnate. Or the person who thought that I was a great leader and I was real and all of this, but when I didn't hang with them, or if I didn't drink with them, or if I held them to that standard, then all of a sudden I was fake. You know, and so I think a lot of times we do that. We want a leader to be powerful only if they agree with us, or we want a leader to be powerful only if they can be down, so to speak. But if they're a person who is different from us, or we don't see them as like us, then all of a sudden we start to disagree with them, and then we try to rally other people to hate them as well. And I think that if we can stop doing that and just have an ideological disagreement, like for instance, I think that John McCain was a great person. I didn't agree with all of his values, or excuse me, I didn't agree with all of his political positions, but I thought that he himself was a good person. Do I hate him just because he is a Republican? No, I don't do that. I thought he was a good person. And so I think that if we can do that, if we can see sometimes past our differences, I think that we can actually stop disenfranchising our leaders.
Now, in your professional work, what is it that you can tell your authors that they may be able to understand what the power is, how to use that power? What is it that your company can do to even instill that power in them?
I would say that first of all, we have a lot of knowledge, and we have to be able to use that knowledge not as a weapon, but as empowerment.
Why not a weapon?
Well, what I mean by that is sometimes we'll say things like, I bet you didn't know so-and-so. You know, it's kind of like, because I know something and you don't,
okay,
I'm putting myself on a pedestal above you. And that's the type of thing I'm saying. Or when you use your knowledge as power or as a weapon, when you keep certain information to yourself because you want to see somebody else fail. So that's what I mean when I say using your knowledge or as a weapon.
We have a caller. We want to go to the phone lines. We want to thank the caller for participating. We ask the caller to turn your volume on your TV all the way down. Talk to us directly in and through the telephone. Thank you, caller. What is your question or comment for this evening?
Good evening. This is for Ms. Lawson. I wanted to ask you, Ms. Lawson, in your organization, if a person has developed a manuscript, let's say for a novel or fictitious work, you walk them through the process of getting an agent, how to, let's say, get their manuscript published by a publishing house. Could you explain how you would be helpful to someone who has developed a manuscript and would like to understand the process? I know there's something called self-publishing and others, but if a person wanted to try to get an agent to get their work sold at a publishing house to get it widespreadly marketed, could you share that process?
Sure, that's a great question. Just to educate, the difference between self-publishing and traditional publishing. With self-publishing, you get your own ISBN number, which is every published book has to have this number, and so you can actually send off for that to get a set of those numbers. You can actually Google that right now. Google ISBN number. You pay for your own editing. You pay for your own book cover. You pay for your typesetting. You pay the publisher or the printer. And you're basically the publisher. So whenever you sell your book, if your book costs $10, you make that $10. But now, if you go the traditional publishing route, yeah, you might get a book deal. But first of all, this isn't like it was back in the early '90s, where the publisher is going to send you on a book tour. They're going to push your book for you. Basically, even if you're traditionally published, and I have books that I self-published, I have books that are traditionally published. And I'll tell you, I work just as hard promoting the books that are traditionally published that I do with the books that are self-published. And I make less of the money. So I can push everybody, hey, go buy this book, go buy this book. But here's what you need to keep in mind. When you sell a book in a bookstore, that bookstore is taking 40% of that book right off the top. So if you sold the book for $10, the bookstore is really going to take about, I think, $4 of it. I'm horrible at math, so if I'm wrong, let me know. So it means that you might get $6 as a self-published author. But now, if you are traditionally published, the publisher is going to take their cut of it, and then if they gave you a big advance, they're going to want their advance. So even that little bit of money that they would have paid you, you're not going to get that either, because you have to pay back that advance. So it's a big difference, and you have to really think about what it is that you really want if you're going to go the traditionally published route. And the other part is you may want to go self-publishing, because many agents are going to want to know how many books you sold. And very few people can say, I've not sold a book, this is my first book, and I want you to represent me. Very few people are going to be able to do that. So my suggestion would be to go the self-publishing route. And there are also some publishing houses, some people like to call them vanity presses, and I think that's a negative term. But for me, who has a full-time job, and I'm running a company, and I have a daughter, and I'm active in my community, I don't always have time to do all of those different steps that I explained earlier. So what I'm going to wind up doing is going with a company who can do all of this for me, and I'm going to pay them a little extra for going through the work for me, but now the book is still in my name. So there are companies out there like that, so you can either self-publish or you can go through kind of a print-on-demand type company, and then be careful with those companies. Some are a little bit more on the level than others. And what I do is I can help you to get your book edited. I can consult with you to maybe find a publisher or a self-publishing house, so to speak, that can help you to get your book out there, and then I can help you to promote the book. Because that's going to be the big thing. Once you've written this book, it's all about promoting. You've got to sell your book. That's the only way an agent is going to want to pick you up. That's the only way a publishing house is going to want to pick you up, is because you've shown that you can hustle, and you can hustle yourself.
Okay. Thank you. I'll be reaching out to you. Thank you.
Please do. Thank you.
And while we're thinking about it, let's give your information that they can contact you, because he said he wants to reach out. So give it to him.
Okay, so you can reach me at 504-505-5894. And you can also email me at info, that's INFO, at mtwimagesolutions.com. And I'm also on Facebook, YouTube, I'm on Instagram, I'm on Twitter, and I'm probably on some other social media. Oh, I'm on LinkedIn. Just look for Rhonda M. Lawson and you'll be able to find me.
All right. We talked about it. You mentioned widespread marketing. What is that, and how does it work?
Well, you want to be able to hit people from different points. For instance, not everybody's on social media, so if all I'm doing is putting up social media posts, first of all, not everybody on social media is going to see it. I mean, your friends are going to see it, and if your friends aren't sharing, then you have a very limited audience. So we find ways to get your message a little bit further on social media, but at the same time, there are people who like to listen to the radio. So why not do radio advertisement? There are some people who like to watch TV, so why not come on awesome shows like this one and talk about your work? Then there are people who still read the newspaper. Believe it or not, there are people who still read the newspaper. So there are still newspapers out there. Why not hit them from there? There are so many different ways that you can hit people. And then there are different networks. I mean, so even if you did social media, there are so many other social media networks out there. There are different ways where you can hit different audiences. You just have to decide who is your audience, who is that core group of people that you want to connect with your book.
All right. And one of the other questions that I had for you is the support. Talk more about the support that you feel that needs to be shown both from grassroots level as well as organizational level and up the ladder.
Support comes in a number of different ways. Some people think that the only way you show somebody support is to buy something from them. But I have a very, very strict type of business. Not every person is going to need to buy a service from me. So I don't think that that's the only way that you can show me support. I think ways that you can show support are sharing a Facebook post or an Instagram post, or maybe commenting on it so that way you can get a little bit more traction. Those are ways that you can support a person for free. Maybe going to an event that they're hosting, or if you can't go to the event, maybe you're still sharing the flyer, or maybe you're telling other people about that event so other people might come. I think there are just so many different ways that you can do it, and I think that we get also often pigeonholed into one type of support. I saw this Facebook post one day, and I laughed at it, and I even shared it on mine, but it says something like, stay away from people who will spend $350 on a concert ticket to support somebody they've never met, but will not go to any of your events. And yeah, sometimes when I have an event, I mean, it is hard doing Black History Month Literary Weekend. We've had 3 successful years, but it is hard. And when I see my friends or even maybe some family members sometimes who have never been to anything that I've done, yeah, I might feel some kind of way, but they all have things going on. You know, maybe they're not coming because they had something else going on that day, or maybe they're not coming because they're not into books like that. I don't know. There are different ways. So what I try not to do is just point out people and say, well, you should have been at my event and you should have done this. I won't do that to them. I'll just ask them, can you support a different way? Can you share the flyer? Can you tell somebody else about it? And I think when we do that, that's the way we can support our grassroots entrepreneurs, is just that little bit of thing. A lot of times we don't want to support somebody. I had a lady tell me once when I was actively writing, I was trying to sell her my book, and she said, is this your first book? I said, yes, it is. She said, well, I don't buy people's books unless they've written 5 books.
Right. She doesn't buy many books.
Exactly. So I'm like, well, how am I supposed to get to that level of my 5th book? I'm on my 5th book now, but how am I supposed to get to that level if you're not going to support me now?
Yeah, exactly.
So I think sometimes we do wait until somebody's famous before we support them. And people have said that about our city, that many times people have to leave New Orleans to become famous and then come back, and then New Orleans will support them. And yeah, New Orleans can be a little tough. It can, but it's still a great city. And if you can get just that core group of people to support you, you can wind up growing and you can wind up thriving. But it just takes a while. You just have to stick with it.
I want to do some announcements because we have the fastest hour in television, and we're getting close to that point. I would like to tell our viewers that they probably, if they've been watching any length of time, should remember Big Mike from Big Shirley's restaurant. His name is Michael Damet, who transitioned recently. And Mike was a guest several times on this program here. That it was hard seeing him leave us, but it's a brother that has put a lot of work in, especially here in New Orleans, in our community, and was very active with a lot of the activism that I was involved in. He supported us with whatever it was that we needed, that he had access to. We got it. Brother Big Mike was a special kind of supporter and a special kind of black man that was in business, raising a family, and cared about not only his people, but most importantly, he cared about his customers. We're going to miss Big Mike, and we're going to let you know when we get close to the memorial service for him. The other thing is, I would be remiss, since we've been talking about all of this publishing, for me not to talk about my book and remind you that it's available at the Community Book Center on Bayou Road. If we can get the up there, it's coming. Okay. Just in case you forgot what it looks like, I want to make sure you know what to look for when you go down there. But our story, the original Holocaust, was a piece that I did. We brought it out last year, and I have to admit it's been received quite well, and I appreciate those of you that have gotten your copy already. I want to thank you for that, and those that haven't gotten a copy, I want to encourage you to go and get your copy. There's information in here you will not find anywhere else, believe me. So continue to support black authors, and I want also to alert you to I think it's Sunday, May 19th, which is this Sunday coming up, at 3101 Erato and Durbany Street. Brother Chewy and Neighborhood Unity is having their annual Malcolm X Day over at the gym on Erato and Durbany Street. Most of you are familiar with the boxing gym over there, so that's where it will be held. They're going to have a panel discussion. Brother Roosevelt Muhammad, most of you know Brother Roosevelt. Brother Bakir will be there. Brother Lakuma will be there, and Sister Sonny Patterson. So, the clock on the wall is telling me I've got to push forward. I want to give you a chance to give your name and where they can reach out to you before we get out of here.
Okay, so first of all, thanks once again for having me on the show, and I want to thank all of the authors who have supported Meet the World Image Solutions over the past almost 3 years now. People like Lisa Woodson, Nola the Nurse, Diana Riley, Tasha Smith-Mills, Dr. Aaron Wheeler, so many of them, and I want to thank you for that. And then I also want to remind people that we are a company that gives just as much as we get. So we've been able to donate to a number of organizations throughout the city. I mentioned St. Mary's earlier in the essay contest and book donations. We've donated to Zeta Phi Beta and Picayune Center for Alternative Education. And so that's what we're all about. We want to give as much as we're getting. So if you want to be a part of this, then you can reach me at 504-505-5894. And you can also email me at info@mtwimagesolutions.com. And of course, I'm on social media, Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, Instagram. Just look for Meet the World Image Solutions and you'll find me, and I will respond as soon as possible. So
we
thank
want to
you.
thank you for being here, and we'll bring you back again because I think you enjoy this setting, and we enjoy the information that you have for us. So without a whole lot of closing out, my brothers and sisters, you know why we are here, and you know how to get in touch with us. If you need us, give us a call. We appreciate you participating and watching. I want you to stay strong, stay black, but by all means, stay committed to blackness. Uhuru Sasa Ngawa.
Ring with the harmony of liberty. a song full of the faith that the dark past has taught us. Sing a song full of the hope that the present has brought us, facing the rising sun of our new day begun. Let us march on till victory is won. Listen to me now, yo, before Dr. Dre, there was Dr. James, welding cords around a copper frame. We sing songs, not for the accolades, to lift voices like a helicopter blade. High in the listening skies, my eyes glisten and tears drop down like rain. Not from the pain, from the joy of how far we came. My brainstorms are designed to celebrate our reign. Yeah, when you put it in perspective, the collective, monuments erected, continents affected, presidents elected, ancestors making moves with the music we've been blessed with. We use it to keep communities connected. Through harmonies, a harmony is collected. Reaping the fruits our foremothers invested. Lift every voice till freedom has manifested. Come on, yeah, lift every voice till freedom has manifested. Come on, listen, lift every voice till freedom has manifested. Come on, come on, come on, come on. Sing a song, yeah, full of the faith that the dark past has taught us. Come on. Sing a song, full of the hope that the present has brought us, facing the rising sun, facing the rising sun of our new day begun. It's a new day. Let us march on till victory is won. Till victory is won. This is victory music. Come on, I hope you feel it.